Tonight, a huge humanitarian effort. Scotland pledges £4 million of aid and medical supplies as concerns mount for those who remain in Ukraine.
My sister is making bulletproof vest right now. One of my friends, she's making Molotov cocktails right now.
As queues grow at the Ukraine border, businesses are urged to end their investments in Russia. An additional 100,000 Ukrainians will be able to seek sanctuary in the UK. And meet the man hailed a hero who's now thanking nurses for saving his baby's life. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. Scotland is to provide £4 million of financial help and medical supplies to Ukraine. While crucial talks are held to try to broker a peace deal, a number of protests against the Russian invasion have been taking place here.
As some Scots wait for news about their loved ones, with some among the tens of thousands flocking to the border, there's also been a huge humanitarian effort, with people around the country pulling together to support those in need. Louise Hosey reports.
Showing solidarity, this rally in Dundee is the latest in a number of protests against Vladimir Putin's decision to send Russian troops into Ukraine. Young and old, Scots and Ukrainians among them, their message was simple: we stand with you.
I thought it was important that we showed up today, showed out and showed our support for Ukraine now and forever. It's heartbreaking, there's no other word for it. It is absolutely heartbreaking, it is gut-wrenching.
My sister is making bulletproof vest right now. One of my friends, she's making Molotov cocktails right now. Everybody's volunteering, supporting refugees, supporting to protect the cities from possible invasion further from Russian soldiers.
I'm proud of my country, proud of my people. They warriors, they are fighting for our freedom. Everybody thought that war will not start, but it's happened. So what can I do? It's disaster. It's really very hard time for everybody. And for me, I don't know even what to do.
In Orkney, Michelle Green's anxious wait continues. Her sister Angela, her Ukrainian husband and their 3 children left their home in Kiev on Thursday to try to get to Poland.
When somebody you're very close to literally overnight becomes a refugee, it's just unimaginable. It's heartbreaking, and it's something you would never, these horrible things happen in the world, but it brings it really close to home.
STV News spoke to Angela, who's still waiting at the border.
People are shocked, people are devastated, people are afraid, people are overwhelmed because this was totally unexpected. And it's been amazing, though, to see how people are caring for each other, how people are coming together.
The events in Ukraine have led to a number of humanitarian aid efforts to help those most in need. One of them is at this farm in East Ayrshire, with lorries full of supplies already on their way to Poland.
The support's been amazing. We actually, at one point, the whole village was gridlocked because so many people were trying to get into our coffee shop to drop things off. It was unbelievable.
Can't imagine that in civilization like we live at the moment, things like that can happen. So
it's really heartbreaking.
I can't speak.
This Polish charity in Aberdeen originally thought they might receive enough donations to put in a small van. They've had so many, they've now got a container full.
On the one hand, there's a war, but on another hand, we are here and there's a lot of humanity and there's a lot of love spread, peace spread, and people are just not agreed for what is happening.
It's 21st century. We shouldn't have people run from their homes without anything.
Beata has also been helping with the charity's efforts. Born in Ukraine, she has some family trying to leave, others determined to remain.
Some people, like my aunts, they're older with dementia as well, so they are not be able to move. And also, it's their country, they want to fight for it, and that's the most important. They want to stay there and they want to be there.
As the Russian invasion continues, so do crisis talks in Belarus aimed at brokering a peace deal. Today, the Scottish Government announced an initial £4 million in humanitarian aid to Ukraine. For those raising their voices today, that help can't come quickly enough. Louise Hosey, STV News.
Pressure is mounting on businesses here in Scotland to end their investment in Russia as the conflict continues. BP have announced they'll sell the stake they have in Russian oil businesses.
And within the last few minutes, Shell has announced it will end all joint ventures with Russian gas firm Gazprom. The First Minister has called on those in the oil and gas sector to stop their funding in the country. Stephen Brown reports.
When it comes to oil, the ties between the UK and Russia are in some cases tightly bound. Some energy businesses working in the North Sea have stakes in Russian firms or pipeline projects and offices in the country. The pressure has piled on many to cut those ties. Yesterday, BP announced it would offload its near 20% stake in the Russian state-owned Rosneft. Others, experts say, will be weighing up their options.
I think all Western companies have massive pressure who is currently investing in Russia. You see it happening. BP, Equinor is under pressure. Shell is already under pressure because, of course, they paid for 10% of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That money is not being utilised. Of course, pressure what's happening in Sakhalin. You see Total Energies having issues. So, yeah, there's a massive pressure on the Western companies to think about doing business in Russia.
The First Minister was in Aberdeen today meeting some oil and gas firms and has called on them to consider their investments in Russia.
I'll be saying directly to them, I think any with interest in Russia should now be looking to divest those interests. The world has to stand united against illegal, unjustified Russian aggression. The people of Ukraine, led by their president, are bravely resisting and we owe them our support.
Yesterday, a protest was held in Orkney against the conflict, but also ahead of a Russian-owned tanker docking there on Wednesday. The council was against the ship's arrival, and this afternoon the UK government announced that no ships linked to Russia would be allowed to dock in the UK.
The owner of the cargo has cancelled the NS Champion coming into Orkney waters. The vessel has turned round now and is heading away on other orders, so that cargo will be given to another non-Russian-owned vessel.
Sanctions will of course have an impact here too, amid rising petrol prices and wholesale gas prices too. But in Russia, they are really beginning to bite. Their interest rates have more than doubled today to 20%. The ruble, their currency, has collapsed against the dollar, and the Moscow Stock Exchange didn't even open this morning. This afternoon, the UK Foreign Secretary announced more sanctions, including on more Russian banks and exports.
We sanctioned Putin and Lavrov, Russia's defence industry, and a growing list of oligarchs. We've approved asset freezes on several Russian banks. We're banning Russian airlines and private jets from our airspace. But we are determined to go much, much further. We want a situation where they can't access their funds, their trade can't flow, their ships can't dock, and their planes can't land.
As the Russian invasion continues, so too will pressure on the Russian economy. And with that, the pressure on businesses here to play their part. Stephen Brown, STV News.
Now, the Home Secretary has come under fire for refusing to waive visa rules for refugees fleeing Ukraine. OK, let's go live now to our Westminster correspondent, Catherine Sampson. And Catherine, what's behind this decision?
Yeah, well, Priti Patel says she won't be copying the EU in terms of waiving visa rules for 3 years because she believes that would undermine security advice. However, this afternoon there was a sense perhaps she was thinking about a slight rethink in terms of the rules for those Ukrainians already settled in the UK who want to bring over their loved ones. They want to bring over their family members. Now, we got an announcement on that yesterday, and the criteria from the Home Office was still fairly restricted. It basically applied to your child, your long-term partner or spouse, or a sick relative. Some key categories like elderly parents, for example, were excluded. And today in the Chamber, Priti Patel's opponents were really trying to push her to get more clarity on that policy.
Where family members of British nationals do not meet the usual eligibility criteria but pass security checks, UK Visas and Immigration will give them the permission to enter the UK outside the rules for 12 months and is prioritising all applications.
For the woman, for example, the elderly parent who tried to join her daughter in the UK and was turned down and made to go away by the UK Border Force at the Gare du Nord, will she today be able to return to the Gare du Nord and come safely to the UK?
Yes.
The UK needs to waive visas, not flags. The EU has really given the lie to the generosity of the UK's response on refugees by waiving visas for 3 years for all Ukrainian nationals. The UK needs to do the same.
Now, the Home Secretary says because of her plans, an additional 100,000 Ukrainian refugees will be able to come to the UK, though when we sought clarity on that, we were told that that figure relates to the original announcement that she made yesterday. So still some confusion around this, I think, tonight. The UN, of course, warning nearly 500,000 people have fled since war began last week. So I think really, in the next days and weeks, you can expect opponents to really continue to push for more on this, to try and ensure that reality of helping people in need matches the strong rhetoric.
All right, Catherine, from Westminster, thank you.
President Putin has threatened retaliation against Western intervention, stepping up the Russian nuclear alert and warning of cyber attacks on countries who impose sanctions. Scotland hosted a conference on that threat today, and our political editor Colin Mackay was there. So Colin, how serious a threat are we facing?
Well, the title of this conference at Strathclyde University was Protecting Scotland from Cyber Harm, and the risk of that just escalated seriously with Putin's threats to the West. The main speaker today was Admiral Michael Rogers. He's a former director of the US National Security Agency, former chief of the US Cyber Command. So who better to ask about the risks Putin's threats pose here?
In this hyper-connected world in which we live in, sometimes it doesn't matter if you were the original intended target. So we all need to be aware collateral damage is a very high potential of occurring here.
Now, you are an admiral, you've been there, you've done it all. How serious do you think Putin's nuclear threat is at the moment?
I think he's clearly trying to signal, look, I have capabilities and I can make this really difficult. Now, having said that, I think he's also trying to use this as a way to potentially put a brake on the West, to say you need to think about not becoming too escalatory here with respect to some of the sanction and economic regimes that you were talking about putting in place. I sure hope that's what it is and not some intention to actually even consider using this. Boy, if he were to go down that road, the relationship between Russia and the rest of the world would never be the same.
What a massive understatement from the Admiral there. But Scotland has already faced cyber attacks. The biggest one was against the Scottish Environment Protection Agency, and that was thought to have emanated from Russia. There's been many other attacks that we don't know about, so they were there today to talk of their experience. The NHS, Scottish Government, Police Scotland were all there to try and improve Scotland's resilience against these. But even if Scotland's not at the top of President Putin's hit list for cyber attacks, then it doesn't mean to say that we won't be affected. Now, you can see more of that interview with the Admiral on Scotland Tonight.
Colin, thank you.
Well, news closer to home and another step towards normality today as pupils in our secondary schools no longer have to wear masks in class. The face coverings will still be compulsory in corridors and communal areas for another few weeks.
The main teaching union, the EIS, says it's too soon to allow the removal of face masks in schools. The easing of restrictions comes almost 2 years since Scotland recorded its first case of coronavirus. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
Thank you. At Trinity Academy in Edinburgh, masks have become a way of life. But now, in class, pupils are showing their faces again.
Now it's like you'll have it off and you'll be like, wait, am I meant to have the mask on, or can I keep it off? So it's quite weird, but...
Yeah, so take a bit of getting used to.
Yeah.
I've had to wear it for 1.5 years now nearly, so it's going to be a bit strange adjusting back to normal, but everyone's pretty much excited.
I think it'll be nice to go back to some form of normality, but I think it'll be strange because I've not had a time in high school where we haven't had masks.
The school says it will be supportive of those who want to keep wearing masks voluntarily, and the regulations on having them on in the corridors remain in place until the 21st of March.
Chances are these will still be around in some form for a while, but in just 3 weeks' time, the remaining compulsory rules on mask wearing, both here and for the rest of us, will be gone.
Teaching union the EIS has previously said it thinks the change has come too soon, but the head here believes there are clear educational advantages.
It would be fantastic to get around the classes and see pupils in the classroom and the smiles on the faces and just the very basics of communication that occur between pupil and teacher and pupil in the classroom.
So it's about balancing up risks and harms. I feel very comfortable about the fact that we've removed the requirement now. What I would say, though, is if the situation deteriorates in future, you would see things like that reintroduced, and that would include in schools.
Tomorrow is the second anniversary of Scotland's first confirmed COVID case. It feels like it's being marked with another step to normality. Gordon Cree, STV News, Edinburgh.
Other stories across Scotland now, and Scotland's census has launched, calling for 2.5 million households across the country to fill out the survey. A large piece of artwork has been unveiled to mark the count that takes place once every 10 years. The statistics are used to plan for the needs of different communities.
Glasgow City Council staff could go back on strike as a £500 million equal pay dispute continues. Trade unions have accused the local authority of broken promises and unnecessary delays in settling claims for mainly female workers. Unite says members are now to be balloted for further industrial action. The council says it's following the process agreed with the unions at the time and is ready to make offers on new claims.
And a man has appeared in court accused of murdering Emma Caldwell. Ian Packer allegedly assaulted the 27-year-old in 2005. Emma was reported missing in April 2005 before her body was found in woodlands near Biggar a month later. Packer made no plea to the murder charge at a private hearing at Glasgow Sheriff Court. Now, just months after gathering in Scotland for COP26, the world's leading climate scientists say many of the impacts of global warming are now irreversible.
The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change revealed today that 4 in 10 people worldwide are now in vulnerable areas and say we're living in an emergency heading for disaster. Laura Piper has this report.
On this street in Edinburgh, a last line of defence is going up. After suffering 2 floods within a year, businesses here have had to adapt.
It was devastating, actually. The damage to the building was enormous. The water just filled up every space like a swimming pool.
Scientists warn that more frequent severe weather events are likely. Today, a sombre report from the IPCC revealed we are simply not adapting fast enough.
Nearly half of humanity is living in the danger zone now. Many ecosystems are at the point of no return now.
Today's report shows that extreme weather events linked to climate change are hitting humans and other species much harder than previously thought. But the authors say there is still a brief window of time to avoid the very worst.
2022 is going to be a really important year for Scotland, not only to get proper plans in place for those emissions reductions, but to also build the foundations for Scottish industry, the Scottish economy, to reap the benefits of the net zero transition.
If we don't deliver on the Paris Agreement and limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees, then the reality is the types of intense weather events we've been experiencing in recent years will escalate.
Today's report also delivered a stark reminder on the moral obligation for richer countries to help the most vulnerable. This footage was taken just a few days ago of severe drought in Somalia. The next big test for how countries are doing with their climate targets will be COP27 in Egypt in November. Today's study says this needs to be the decade of action if we are to turn things around. Laura Piper, STV News.
Now here's Philip with your weather.
A light drizzle is coming in from the west. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, unfortunately, it has been a bit of a grey, murky start to the new week, but things are improving as of tomorrow. We've got a large area of high pressure building across the whole of the UK. It will be very brief, though, as midweek things turn messy once again. High pressure clears out to the east, and that will allow further fronts to move in from the west. So overnight Wednesday and all through Thursday, it will be grey, cloudy and windy once again. Back to just now, though, and as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, there's still 1 or 2 showers feeding in, mostly across western areas, falling as hail down to lower levels, snow on ground above 300 metres. Elsewhere, though, central, southern and eastern areas, a dry night to come with clear skies, so we are likely to see a widespread frost forming, and on any damp roads could see some icy stretches too. Temperatures in rural spots getting down to -2, possibly -3 degrees Celsius. So looking ahead to tomorrow, a cold start to the day. Eventually, by mid-morning, a lot of those showers will fizzle out, and overall it will be fine, dry and settled across the whole of the country with plenty of bright and sunny spells. It's the first day of March, the first day of meteorological spring, and it will be feeling it too. Temperatures not doing too bad either, highs of 9, possibly 10 degrees Celsius, so slightly above average for the time of year. For Wednesday, another cold, frosty start to the day, more in the way of cloud around, and we could see some further outbreaks of rain spreading in from the south later on in the afternoon. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, a man from Glasgow who was hailed a hero during Beast from the East for ferrying maternity teams into hospital when Scotland was blanketed in snow is now thanking the very same medics for saving his premature baby's life. Ross McKinnon used his 4x4s to make sure vital NHS workers got to work during the severe weather that gripped the country in February 2018.
Well, hospital staff couldn't thank the 41-year-old enough, but now, 4 years on, he's had the favour returned in spectacular form with those very same doctors and nurses safely delivering his baby. Well, 4 years after filming with Ross during those snowstorms, I've been back to see him again.
What goes around comes around. Baby Mirin entered the world less than 4 weeks ago and was saved by medical staff at the neonatal intensive care unit at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow.
Because she was brought out 4 weeks early, she wasn't quite ready for coping with the world. She was rushed away because she wasn't breathing, she wasn't breathing properly, and she wasn't maintaining her body temperature, which was probably the scariest moment of our lives.
4 years earlier, when Scotland was brought to a standstill, it was her dad saving the day.
You know, these are lasses that work in the premature care ward and they're so passionate about what they do. I was hearing stories about girls walking for 3 hours to get to their work, you know, and through the blizzard.
Ross's actions left a mark on the team at the baby unit.
And I was chatting with Tiffany and my phone kept ringing and I'm saying, I'm sorry, it's work, people don't know I'm here. And she said, what is it you do? I told her I've got a wee business doing 4x4 adventures up at Loch Lomond and I've got a fleet of Land Rovers. And she was like, was it you that brought us all in here in the Beast from the East? I was really surprised that she knew about that.
I remember coming in a day shift and there was 7 of us and it was panicking, but by the time he managed to get everyone in and home safely, was amazing. So he was such a good help 4 years ago.
Really? It's full circle?
Full circle, yeah. I had no idea how important these nurses were to everyone in the intensive care. Like all the babies in there are. The
job they do is just that, and like there's alarms going off everywhere in that place, and they're
It's a really scary time.
Scary time.
Such an amazing job. They're just absolutely incredible. All of them, angels.
That was a brief glimpse of you in that report, Kelly. My goodness, you've changed.
Do you know what? If I've aged, John, it's working with you more closely. It's definitely that. Anyway, that's it from us. Congratulations to the family. Bye for now.
Good night.